Welcome to an introduction on pushing exercises by the Carnegie Library of Homestead Athletic Club staff members Felix Zamborski and Nina Fassiger. Here we'll take you through some of the do's and don'ts of pushing movements in the gym. The barbell bench press performed on a flat bench is simply laying back on the bench and pressing the barbell from the chest upward. There are technicalities which should be observed, however, the major premise of the exercise is fairly simple. Here with the barbell bench press, Felix is setting up some equipment for effective and reasonably safe performance of the exercise. In addition to positioning the bench in the squat rack area, he's adjusting the safeties so that the bar won't crush his vitals in the case of a failure. The safeties are heightened to the point of preventing Felix's neck from being crushed, but not too far up that the movement within proper parameters is hindered. Felix is also adjusting the rack for the bar itself to be at a height that doesn't require too much of a liftoff from the rack, but just enough for the bar to be re-racked comfortably. Once everything is positioned as preferred, take a seat on the bench and lay back so that your eyes are directly beneath the bar. Plant the feet firmly on the ground and apply pressure from them, which creates an arch in the back. Much like how your foot has an arch for stability purposes, you want to create a similar effect within your back. If you don't like the foot analogy, think of a bridge which has an arch underneath it or above it, or just simply a dome. The pressure is vertical, however, the gradation or slope of the arch disperses the weight horizontally as well. To prepare the back itself for bearing the weight, muscle-wise, contract the traps to move the shoulder blades back closer together. Then contract the lats to pull the shoulder blades down. Think back and down when preparing for the back. This ensures that the arch is held in addition to having the feet pushed back. It also makes sure that the pressure point on the bench isn't the vertebrae in the neck, but rather the cushion of the muscle is. Grip-wise, here Felix is grabbing the bar somewhat close. Just make sure that your hands are placed equidistantly apart from the center of the bar. This is very important if you wish to remain balanced while performing the bench press, or you don't want one arm to work harder than the other. By not keeping your hands equally distant from the center of the bar, while both sides of the bar itself have the same amount of weight on them, the application of the force generated by the weight will be dispersed in an uneven fashion due to the fulcrum or pivot points not being even. Another thing to keep in mind when grabbing the bar is to make sure the weight is applied to the wrist. The wrist is where the force for the hand is generated from, so resting the weight on the fingers or upper hand simply is inefficient if you're looking to increase the amount of weight you are lifting. And closely tied with grip is elbow positioning. Your grip on the bar should permit the elbows to descend and ascend in approximately a 45-degree angle away from the torso. The purpose of keeping the elbow at an approximate 45-degree angle is to recruit both the tricep and chest muscles for this compound exercise. The contraction of the pectoral simply move your humerus anteriorly. If you were to flare the elbows out, you'll certainly be using your chest. However, you'll inevitably be using it in a way which limits the use of your triceps. If you were to tuck your elbows in and keep them in toward the torso too much, your chest has already moved your humerus anteriorly, leaving only the triceps to lift the weight. Therefore, keeping the elbows at a 45-degree angle ensures that both the pectoral and tricep muscles are used efficiently to lift the most weight anatomically possible. As far as the bar path goes, once you raise the bar from the rack, you should move to be directly over the chin. Once the descent has begun, lower the bar to the sternum, which is the bone at the bottom of the chest. Once the bar touches the sternum, raise your bar up as far as possible and move the bar slightly back towards the chin. The bar may not make it all the way back to the chin, but it will produce a bar path that is not perfectly vertical. This is as it should be. The bar shouldn't move upward in a strictly vertical manner. There should be at least some curve in the bar path. Here, Nina demonstrates poor choices in elbow angling, hand placement, foot stability, and bar path. While lifting your feet from the ground degenerates force produced by the chest and triceps, often people look for an extra challenge or difficulty will lift them up. However, for the beginner, it's best to master the basics. Without mastering the basics, attempting other variations naturally will be faulty. With the incline version of the barbell bench press, most of the same principles follow from the flat bench. The major difference is in form, which the bar path and liftoff stance have. With the incline bench, the bar should be lowered to the middle of the chest and raised up to the upper chest. The bar path on the incline press is more strictly vertical than the flat press though. With positioning the body on the bench, it's going to be difficult to get the eyes directly under the bar without using the rack as we are here. To combat this, you'll have to have your eyes look back at the bar and lift off primarily with the triceps. The liftoff is a prone position, but once the incline movement itself has begun, it's more natural. The purpose of doing an incline press is to target the upper pectoral muscles and the front deltoid muscles. This differs from the flat press because the flat press targets the chest as a whole. This incline press discriminates the upper chest from the rest of the pectoral, being an excellent exercise if you wish to target it. Here Nina shows the importance of keeping the bar in path as mentioned before. If that is deviated from, the bar will tend toward the stomach, which will be difficult to recover from. If the bar moves to a position that you can't recover from, simply let it fall onto the safeties. Here Felix steps in to accentuate the poor bar path. Ultimately, pushing the bar outward away from the body will become a front delt exercise rather than one that includes the chest and triceps. The military press is simply pressing weight over the head. This exercise doesn't include any major chest movement, but rather it does with the tricep and deltoids. To prepare for the barbell military press, set the rack to be slightly lower than your shoulder height when standing normally. Grip the bar as you would for the regular bench press. Then dip your chest underneath the bar, sinking the elbows under as well. To do this, bend at the knees and hip. Keep your back straight though. Lift the bar off the rack and keep the chest pointed somewhat upward. Take 2 large steps backward and take as many small steps as needed to be stable underneath the bar's weight. The bar should descend as deep and close to the upper chest as possible. When lifting the bar above your head, the elbows should be facing forward but at a slight angle. Keeping the elbows at a 45-degree angle throughout the movement will be inefficient and slightly uncomfortable. In the deeper part of the movement, the elbows should be closer to the torso than 45 degrees away. But at the upper portion of the movement, the elbows will move out to be more 45-degree-esque away from the body. Once the bar is at the top of the movement, it should be approximately directly above the forehead. Overall, the bar path is from the upper chest to directly above the forehead. When Nina demonstrates a failure to perform this exercise with proper form, not only do you see her unstable under the bar, which results in the bar swaying back and forth, but also her elbows are not in front of her nor the bar. This elbow positioning places unnecessary difficulty in raising the bar and eventually becomes uncomfortable. You also see her have the bar raised to a point which is almost behind her head. Not only is this not good for balance, but your shoulder will end up impinged if this becomes a habit. For the most part, the dumbbell version of the bench press is the same as the barbell version. However, due to there being more free movement with the hands when gripping dumbbells, there is slight variation in form, in particular hand placement. Nina is demonstrating poor elbow placement, much like the barbell version. There is more room for errors on the hand placement with dumbbells though, because the dumbbells will be in line with the path of the elbow naturally by holding them normally, and the elbows should be at about a 45-degree angle away from the torso. The dumbbells should be angled at about 45 degrees from the torso as well. Nina shows what it's like to keep the dumbbells too close to each other and them too far apart from each other, both respectively corresponding to keeping the elbows too close and too far from the torso. Keep the dumbbells in the same vertical path as with the barbell. Don't allow the dumbbells to fall backward. Due to the removal of stability that the bar provides earlier, there is a need for more stabilizer muscle use. For the bench press, other than the prime movers, there are muscles which provide stability, for instance the rotator cuffs, lats, traps, and side delts. In addition to all other technique requirements, it is pretty obvious that there isn't a rack when performing the dumbbell bench press. This requires the performer to hoist the weight in certain manners. Once the weight is on the ground, rather than firstly sitting down and then bicep curling the weight up to your knees, stand up. When standing, bend over to grab the dumbbells and situate them above the knees slightly. Then sit down. This removes the exertion required when curling the weight up and just simply allows you to use the weight as you can't curl it up. Once you have the dumbbells situated on your legs and are sitting upright, drop back with the dumbbells. There will be some strain on getting them back, but it's much easier than curling them everywhere. When letting go of the dumbbells, try to lower them down as softly as possible. However, once it becomes an uncomfortable strain on your arms, simply let go and drop them. Not only does this lessen the noise created by dropping them from the hip, it's a preventative measure that limits the possibility of weights being dropped on others and rather into another space. Overall, the dumbbell incline bench press is the same as the barbell version. Just incorporate the tips from holding the dumbbells in the last section of this video with the form of the barbell press. Although because you aren't dropping back onto a flat bench, you will need to curl the weight up to the shoulder height. To assist with this, you can kick your knees upward to minimize the amount of space you'll need to curl the dumbbells though. Because the weights are light enough for Felix not to kick his knees up, he just curls them into position. The dumbbell chest fly is an exercise that mimics the bench press in the sense that the weight is being pressed upward. The difference between lies with how the pressing movement minimizes tricep contraction and focuses more on chest contraction. Laying back on the bench with dumbbells on the chest and keeping the dumbbells parallel to each other, press them directly upward. Then, while keeping the elbows locked, extend the weight outward and down. It is okay to allow some bending in the elbows near the bottom of the movement, but make sure that the elbows at least form a 90-degree angle with the torso. Nina demonstrates improper ways to hold the dumbbells and improper ways to move the dumbbells back together. On the way down, the hands should be slightly closer to your chest rather than your head. Don't bend the elbows prematurely and keep the dumbbells in line with your chest. Don't have the dumbbells point outward, and don't pronate your grip either. Overall, this exercise is great for stretching the pectoral muscles, which grants greater range of motion that is conducive to muscular development. The movements involved with the dumbbell version of the over-the-head press, or military press, are essentially the same as the barbell version. However, as mentioned before, the dumbbell naturally lines up with the forearm and elbow path. Therefore, the appearance of how the dumbbells are situated will be different than that of the barbell. Regarding the position of the dumbbells, they should be angled outward slightly. In the deepest position or portion of the movement, the edge of the dumbbell should touch or be close to touching your shoulder. When the dumbbells are raised up, they really shouldn't touch together, but if they do, it's not the end of the world. The dumbbell lateral raise targets the side delt muscle. The deltoid has 3 heads, the front, side, and rear. With most, if not all, most pressing movements involve the front delt muscle head. The side delt acts mostly as a stabilizer in most exercises. So while it's not a primary mover, strengthening the side delt is key for becoming more stable throughout all pressing movements. To perform this exercise, simply hold weights and raise your arms sideways. There are some technicalities to better enhance the contraction, but for the most part, it's as simple as that. To best perform this, keep your hands in a neutral position, which is what Nina is not doing here. She also is raising the dumbbells far past shoulder height. The side delt's full range of motion is to shoulder height, so anything above that transition, the load is becoming more on the front delts and triceps. Bending too far forward results in the exercise becoming rear delt focused as well, because you essentially are moving the weight behind you at that point. Moving the weight straight in front of you also is strictly a front delt exercise, not side delt. To target the side delts most effectively, stand straight up, raise the dumbbells out sideways, and angle them a few degrees forward. While it may seem counterintuitive to angle the weight forward a few degrees, it does result in a better contraction within the side deltoid muscle head. I'm not exactly sure why this is the case, however, it undoubtedly has something to do with anatomical positioning of the tendons attaching the muscle to the bone. The cable tricep pushdown is an isometric contraction that is very simple to explain. You simply keep your elbows tucked in toward your torso and contract the triceps to push down the hands. There are many types of variation and grips within this exercise, but the basic principle stays the same. Put your hands down with the elbows tucked in. Nina shows a bunch of what not to do, like swinging the hips and walking back much farther than necessary. It's okay to bend out the hips, however, it's not good to swing the hips. Remember, you want this to be a tricep exercise, not an abdominal and hip exercise. You inevitably use your abs and hips, but that's for stabilization purposes, not active motion purposes. With gripping the attachment, grab it where you can get the most stretch and range of motion within the tricep. And if you're looking to target a different head of the tricep, you can press down more in or out. Remember, there are 3 heads to the tricep muscle group, hence it being tri. Oftentimes, muscles are termed using prefixes that designate how many heads are in the muscle group. Bi is for 2, tri is for 3, and quad is for 4. You absolutely don't want to lock the elbows when performing a cable tricep pushdown because it will automatically turn it into a lat pushdown, as Nina points out here. If you're looking for another tricep exercise, this is an exercise called a skull crusher. Here, Nina and Felix show some of what it looks like to do it on the cable machine. The machine variation of the chest fly is performed essentially the same as the dumbbell version, back and arms wise. There is a difference in locking the elbows though. With the machine version, there is no need to bend the elbows due to there being an superimposed limitation in how far back the weight can go. That is why when performing the dumbbell version, you should bend the elbows at the bottom portion of the movement. Otherwise, there is a great risk of stretching the pectoral muscles too far and there being a cause for injury. Nina shows some of what not to do, very similar to the dumbbell fails. One thing that should be kept in mind when doing the machine variety, which didn't have to be on the dumbbell version, is keeping the back against the pad. With the dumbbell version, the weight pressed up against you, keeping you on the bench, whereas with this, there really is nothing holding you back from leaning forward. To prevent wrong posture in performing the machine version, point the chest out and don't cave it in. In an accentuated instance of poor performance, it'll look like you're going to dive into a pool, which is what Nina looks like here. I think she might be mimicking a swan or something. Thank you for watching this introductional video on various pushing exercises and machines that the Carnegie Library of Homestead Athletic Club offers. We hope to see you at our facilities testing out what we have and testing your skills in the weight room at that.